This week, the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry continued to peel back layers of alleged corruption, political interference and organised crime within South Africa's law enforcement ranks. Spokesperson Jeremy Michaels confirmed that the Commission remains on track to deliver its interim report by mid-December, with discussions underway with President Cyril Ramaphosa to extend the final deadline. Now, testifying this week, Hawks Divisional Commissioner Patrick Mbotho denied allegations that his members interfered in the December 2024 operation to arrest businessman and murder-accused Katiso Molefe. Meanwhile, Crime Intelligence Head Lieutenant General Dumisani Khumalo resumed his testimony defending the work of the Provincial Killing Task Team and calling it a model for future investigations. Suspended Ekurhuleni Metro Police Chief Jabulani Mapiyeye closed the week with explosive testimony. Mapiyeye told the inquiry that his deputy, Julius Mkhwanazi, turned the Ekurhuleni Metro Police Department into his personal fiefdom, awarding tenders and allegedly colluding with alleged crime boss Vusmusi Ket Matlala. He claimed city officials enabled the misconduct while he was on leave, effectively sidelining his authority. To unpack the implications of this week's revelations, we're joined by criminal expert Professor Jean Steyn. But before that, here's a wrap of this week's proceedings.
It was indeed not the Happy New Year's Day, because I had to expect or receive calls from more than 110 people that I thought I am their leader, asking me one and the same question, all of them. Unfortunately, I could not answer any of those people that were asking what's happening, because in normal situation, they will expect any communication affecting them to come via myself or my office. But this time around, this letter just started to trend, and then and also the language used. Most of them were worried about the language used to say, how can we sacrifice and leave our families for 6 to 7 years, and then we are told that we are valueless.
It is for that reason that I'm not surprised about the allegation that funded stuff coming to our way, because I do not understand myself why they were there now. More so because earlier I would have been told that they would have been in a rush to another operation.
IPID had given us a report on all cases then under investigation by whom involving members of EMPD. A total of 7 criminal cases were being investigated at the time of this meeting. No progress, but for the blue light case, has been achieved in these cases. Instead, one more case has been added to the list. One involving extortion, kidnapping, and theft in Boksburg by 6 officers from the Drug Enforcement Unit, reporting to Brigadier Dion Singh, who in turn reports to Brigadier Mkhwanazi.
Right, let's bring in criminal expert Professor Jean Steyn to help us unpack some of the revelations coming out of the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry. Very good afternoon to you, Professor. Thank you for your time. I mean, we keep hearing week in and week out explosive testimony and evidence coming out of these commissions tasked with probing political interference and so forth. Talk to us really about the abuse of power and officers acting above the law. Is this something new, or has it been there all along, just unknown to the public? Because it seems as though every time somebody steps in to give evidence, it's jaw-dropping.
Good afternoon, and to Weekend Review viewers. Police around the globe, not just South Africa, is under pressure. Governments struggling and so forth. Abuse of power has been present for thousands of years, and it's continuing today. If you consider less than 3% of criminal cases are concluded in our courts of law, never mind convictions, and every 9 out of every 10 incarcerated offender reoffends, it gives you a bleak reflection of the challenges that our society faces. But abuse of power, especially under pressure, escalates in times of difficulty, especially when it's not held in check and not served with humility.
Crime Intelligence Head Lieutenant General Dumisani Khumalo praised the PKTT model, but also spoke about the Hawks' interference and cartel infiltration. How do you reconcile a successful investigative model operating within a system that seems compromised?
Those standards were determined, or mandates, goals were determined beforehand, in advance. The closing of that unit or any discussions around it should be based on those standards and norms. Conflict or frustration or interventions or influence from within means that there are power struggles, there are coalitions within the organization, could be a political influence, could be organized crime, or both, especially in difficult circumstances. Patronage for politicians come into consequence, which is sadly what one can observe with the testimony, the evidence that's being led in all these committees, ad hoc committees, and in commissions of inquiry.
We know that Hawks Divisional Commissioner Patrick Mbotho denied that the Hawks had in fact interfered in the December 2024 arrest of businessman and murder accused Katiso Molefe. Yet, on the other hand, records show that Hawks officers arrived unannounced by helicopter, and it was quite a big showcase outside of that home. How would one describe that in terms of reconciling and understanding what exactly transpired there?
Well, someone should know there's an operation, especially at the executive level, when it's planned in advance. Why is someone arriving at the doorstep before an operation is to be executed that's not involved in the operation? Where there's smoke, there's fire.
Yeah.
For what reason? These need to be clear. Yes, circumstantial evidence, but we need to have a response from these individuals. Why did they act and behave in the way that they did? Everyone's asking these questions.
And how much damage can this kind of inter-unit interference do to criminal cases once they reach court? I mean, with all of these, explosive remarks that we're hearing.
No, certainly it speaks to the credibility of the process and substance. Any presiding officer is going to consider the totality and the interconnectedness of the organization and the operation and those involved in it. It could collapse cases. It affects trust all around. The reason why 70% of women raped don't report their cases.
We also heard really explosive claims from suspended Metro Police Chief Jabulani Mapiyeye, who's alleged that his deputy, Julius Mkhwanazi, effectively captured the Ekurhuleni Metro Police Department, handing out tenders and working with Kat Matlala's network while Mapiyeye was on leave. How common is this kind of local level capture that seems to be quite solid in this case?
Doesn't start overnight. It's a process. I'm sure this happened over an extended period of time. The alarm bells rang some time ago to say, okay, there's groupthink taking place, mine guards and people being attacked or harmed for making inadequate or inappropriate or decisions not fitting the majority and so forth around it. So no, this should not be happening. We cannot normalize it. organized crime. You expect organized crime to infiltrate the police. It's standard, it's norm, it's practice with their technology, etc. But you have systems in place. You should have systems in place to identify red flags, especially of this nature, where they take over organizations, where the head of the organization cannot control or know or respond in a meaningful way because of infiltration.
Yep.
That's gone far too far. No, the house is burning down and the kids are still in their beds.
Yeah, and in a very short space of time, because if you look at the period that Mkhwanazi stepped in here, it was around 2023, and all of this seems to have happened very, very quickly.
Yeah, I think the reporting, but the network in itself might have taken some time, replacing individuals at executive levels to fit the given mandate. Could be political, it could be organized crime and so forth. But like I said earlier, no, you can clearly see when something is going wrong over time. What does the norm, the standard, the average excellent police officer or executive in policing do? What can we expect these senior police officers to decide or to act in and so forth? And unfortunately, a less than 40% pass mark.
Yeah.
In this instance, and I'm sorry to say it, we have got to have hope, and I do have hope. But this is not acceptable.
It's been weeks of trying to connect the dots with one evidence, person stepping in to give evidence and the next. From your perspective, what do you think success would look like 6 months after this interim report? What tangible changes would show that the system, to some extent, is being repaired rather than merely exposed?
More than one goal, more than one objective, but those responsible must act responsible. Those that must account, and it must be swift and it must be smart. Change must come from within. We observing the inquiry, but as what is happening at the same time? Are cases being investigated? How does it connect with different organs of the criminal justice system? Corrections, the courts, the prosecutors, and so forth, all at the same time. People can hear the evidence. People can hear the testimony all around the globe. I can assure you, everyone is watching, from Timbuktu to Cape Town. Everyone is observing South Africa. What South Africans want is action. What we want is for those that are responsible to be held accountable, and swiftly. Want to see that our police, that our criminal justice system is acting appropriately, not based on previous inquiries where very little is observed in terms of evidence of consequence. That's what everyone wants to see. I would like to see the police change from within. There are very good police officers out there. Want to see the change, the plans coming from within. I would like to see those responsible for doing wrong to be held accountable for it,
Professor,
and for things to change.
Very quickly before we let you go, what do you think at this point is at stake? Because you make mention of what has happened in previous outcomes of commissions and little action in that space. But looking at the timing this time around, what is at stake?
I have a perception, and I do think that this Commission of Inquiry is going to extend much broadly. I expected this investigation to be concluded in minimum time, but reform overall, I think government knows, we know there's a bigger issue. This is a start to professionalize the police, broadly speaking, to hold them accountable. But I'm going to be positive and say there are investigations ongoing and people will be convicted in courts of law.
Yeah.
Veracity of claims will be tested, of evidence and so forth. I've got to be positive about it. So I do think that there will be consequences. I just hope that it comes quickly. swiftly and smartly, and that our police and our criminal justice system rises to their occasion.
We can
I've
only
got
hope.
to-
Thank you so much for your time. Let's perhaps leave it there for now. Professor Jean Steyn, who's a criminal expert, unpacking the big factors in the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry.